Hey, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's Monica Reynolds, and I'm so excited to talk to you about the perfect real estate assistant and how they change lives. They change the agents' lives, they change the clients' lives. It's amazing what they do. So I wanted to share with you today just a little bit about that. The call will be 30 minutes long, and there is a chat box. If you have questions, I'll stop intermittently to clean up some of the questions and answer them. So it's going to be a fast 30 minutes. I've got lots of great slides, and yes, you get a copy of those slides. They'll be sent to you. So with that said, and you'll get another recording of the call if you'd like to go back and listen. So if you have questions now, put it in the chat box. Love to answer anything ahead of time. We've got 2 minutes until the call starts. And I'm Monica Reynolds, and I am excited to talk to you. So we'll get this call rocking in a couple of minutes. We've got the great Jasmine from MAPS Coaching, who is going to help coordinate the call today and move the slides around for me so that I can focus on what I need to say to you versus, oh, okay, I got to move this, because technology and Monica Reynolds are not, those names don't match. So that's not a description you put with me. Okay, somebody's putting a question in. So what's the question, Jasmine, real quick?
All right, so the question is this going to be different than the PREA calls?
Well, the perfect real estate assistant is the PRE call. This is just basically giving information about what the perfect real estate assistant is, plus talking about the new class that's starting in July. And if you've been in my one class and never taken another, the materials change all the time. So right now we're updating a lot of material with command and with opportunities in command. And if you don't know what I'm talking about on opportunities, it's a pipeline that is amazing. Everybody is absolutely in love with it. People that are doing 2,000 transactions a year are putting their teams on it and say it's incredible to keep track of that. So I just want you to know that, well, it's somewhat similar to what I go over in Perfect Real Estate Assistant, because the basics are the basics. And if you learn those well, you can do anything. That's what champions are. And you kind of think about the New England Patriots, which is not my favorite baseball team, or football team. Yeah, I call them a baseball team. Football team, but they do the basics better than anyone. They know the drills better than anyone. They are just basically good. So darn those guys. But anyway, top of the hour, Jasmine, let's get started.
All right, so let's kick it off. So hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, The Perfect Real Estate Assistant 101, Create an Assistant Who is Irreplaceable, with your MAPS coach, Monica Reynolds. Please note this webinar is being recorded and you'll automatically receive the webinar recording. If you have any questions for your coach, please type them into the questions box located in your webinar taskbar. Following the webinar, if you have any questions about today's coaching call or program, please email us at fasttrack@kw.com. All right, that's all for me, Monica. Go ahead and take it away.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for being on the call. It's Monica Reynolds, and some of you know who I am. I've dug the well on real estate assistants. I wrote 2 books in the 90s. I did all the speaking on that, and I'd have a room of 4 sometimes. NAR sought me out to speak because no one was speaking on it, and they'd give me a bigger room of 50. People were just not buying into having a real estate assistant and see what they could do. So I wrote 2 books on it. I was contacted by Dearborn Publishing and said, hey, we know you talk on this. We'd love to talk to you. In the 90s, I was doing about 300 transactions with my team, and I had showing assistants at the time. I had a couple licensed assistants, and they would go out and show properties. They'd bring people back and write contracts. Imagine that. Wonder how that got started. So I guess I dug the well, and so I know that the right assistant is incredible for you as an agent if you're on this call, and for assistants on this call. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do. You are the secret weapon. You changed the industry. Anybody asked me what changed the industry? It wasn't the computer. It wasn't the cell phone, which I had none of those when I started, or the fax machine. It is the real estate assistant. And for that to be accepted as this is what an agent does, this is their job description. So, Jasmine, let's advance to the next slide. So obviously, you know, if you've taken the program, and real quick before I get into some of the meat of it, you know, the program that you're going to see, and we'll go to the next slide, Jasmine, is that it's about the program. So it's scripts, checklists, customer service letters, detailed job descriptions, leadership training, ROI. How does an assistant pay for themselves? They're a profit center. And I absolutely empower the assistants to be a profit center and to be part of the goals and be part of the team. We're going to build a manual so that you're never hostage to your business. It's policy and procedures manual. There's 18 weekly calls, 3 per month for 6 months. The first call, agents, is for you to teach you to be a great boss because it's costly for turnover. And unfortunately, we're great salespeople. We may not be a great boss or leader sometimes. So these calls, that the Perfect Real Estate Assistant, are for everyone. So let's advance the slide. So the next slide that we're going to take a look at, and I want you guys to be looking at this, is that no matter what your business is, you have to be an excellent communicator. And too many times an agent will hire an assistant and basically not give them a lot of instruction, not give them a lot of direction, have a lot of expectations, have a lot of imaginary conversations, and yet the assistant sometimes doesn't step up and say, excuse me, I need some more help. Excuse me, could you tell me more about that? Excuse me, what time do you need that? So first thing that we talk about in the call is really understanding personality style. Now, the KPA is a great place to start, but I also start with a DISC test because that's how an assistant can relate to the client. So when you bring back a file on a listing or you have one go under contract, you say, by the way, the wife is a driver, the husband is a high I, whatever it happens to be, or the husband is a C, so that there's a language that you speak. So in the world of the agent and assistant, if the assistant is a high C and the agent is a high D, there's a language barrier there. So the D knows how to speak to a C. The C also knows how to handle a D, who can be rude, impatient, to the point, and sometimes not give all the information a C would be happy with. So I really help you navigate that language barrier. Be clear, be concise, state a deadline. So agents never ask for something or say, here's something I need you to do, without saying, can you do it by 1 o'clock? Can you do it by next week? Can you do it by Friday? In assistance, you always ask for a deadline. You don't assume that it can be put to the side. It may be something that they need immediately, and they just imagine they've told you that. Use their name when speaking. Jane, Jennifer, Sarah, Bill, Tom. If you're on the call, your ears perked up. So use their name when speaking. Develop great listening skills. I've got 10 points on that. You never argue or you discuss the challenge. You never fight back. So both sides of the equation, so the assistant and the agent, I teach you how to navigate and really understand how to communicate in the personality style of their language. 10-cent notebook. I know a lot of you are digital, paperless. Good for you. Proud of you. However, the 10-cent notebook works for me. And this is some of the things that I talk about in communication. If I was to email my team members, which I've done and they know, that they have to respond, working on it, done, got it. Just simple, done, got it, working on it. I need them to acknowledge my emails. I don't need them to go into outer space, out to Pluto and Mars and Jupiter, and not know if they got it or not. What's going on? The 10-cent notebook, everyone on my staff is trained that when we're talking or they come into my room, they bring in a 10-cent notebook into my office. And in that 10-cent notebook is, you get them from Target or Kmart, came apart. But they're your school notebooks, and I think they're 17 cents now. And they're spiral. And so if I said to Stephanie, who's been my assistant for nine plus years now, if I said, okay, Stephanie, will you call Bill Johnson and tell him this? She writes it on one piece of paper, turns the page to page, another piece of paper. Okay, I need to find out about blah, blah, blah. Writes it down. Oh, one more thing, blah, 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 on the third page. Now, she goes back to her office. She writes down when she's completed those tasks, done, sets them in my chair. I don't have to micromanage. I don't need to have another conversation. I don't need to figure out if they went or not. This is so critical. It's like a marriage. There's 2 reasons people get divorced, communication and money. 2 reasons assistants leave. It's usually number 1 is communication. Call, email, call. I talk about that all the time, especially with clients. You call them, you tell them something, you email them what you said very briefly, and you call them the next day. Did they understand that information? Most clients that are buying or selling, their home or under contract, they only hear 25%. It's extremely stressful to move. Repeat in the firm. Always repeat in the firm. Great. So what I hear you saying, Mr. Johnson, is blah, blah, blah. So I teach the assistants how to make that phone a cash register. Tonality, you can say anything to anyone with the correct tonality. All right, so I talk fast, listen fast, and we're going to go to the next slide because I got a lot of good slides to share with you. Okay, so we're going to build client relationships. So pass the baton is where you as an agent, under no circumstance, and if you're the assistant listening to this call, should you ever call a client that put their home up for sale until you understand their motivation? Are they happy or sad that they're selling? Is it a divorce? Is there an illness? Have they lost their job? Have they gotten a bigger job? Are they being transferred and they're mad? Are the kids happy? Do they have pets? Okay, they only have a dog named Tank, 225-pound Rottweiler who has his own couch and he watches dog TV and he has his own bedroom. I think you should know about Tank. And so here's customer service. Are there any pets on the premise? An assistant will say. That is customer service. Customer experience. Wow, Mrs. Johnson, I hear you have a great family member named Tank. I'd sure like to meet that guy sometime. I hear he's really cool. That's customer experience. And I talk a lot about that. So list price, personality, style, you've got to go through this. And I've got an extensive checklist. It takes 5 minutes or less, and it makes that first call on the assistant so powerful. The assistant is to call within 1 hour. They are paying you 6% of the value of their home. That's the way they look at it. It's coming right off the top. And you've got to make sure that your assistant is highly trained, has role played with you. I've got the scripts, and she makes or he makes those calls. And they are powerful and reassuring to that client who, where you just left the home and you didn't tell them the price it's going to sell. You didn't tell them when the next showing is. You didn't tell them what they're going to net. You didn't tell them exactly to the penny what their closing costs. And hey, by the way, I'm not telling you what day next showing is or what day you're moving. And don't pack yet, don't know yet. So there's so much uncertainty. Again, put your questions in the chat box. I'll answer as many as I can. And again, this is a 30-minute call. First 21 days, so roll your eyes on this one, gang, but you have to set yourself apart. And setting yourself apart is when you have your admin listing manager call every single day. And that is reaching out. It's not a text. It's not an email. And I know some of the clients will say, just text me. And then I teach the assistants to say, absolutely, I respect that. There may be one day a week that I will need to reach out with you and talk to you on the phone. What day of the week is best and what time? Remember, the phone relationship is the relationship that builds. It's not the text. No one's going to ever call you and say, hey, we got such great text. We just so love to list our home with you because the texts are so amazing. Okay, next page, everyone. Let's talk about building team relationships. So if you have one assistant, you have two assistants, you have 5 assistants, it's absolutely imperative that there is a way that you communicate that makes sense. So we would have a huddle in my office. I had 5 assistants. And they each had a daily meeting form, which is all in the program. It'll say 2 or 3 things that they accomplished yesterday, what they're going to do today, and any problems are written down on that form. I know, plant a tree, kill a tree. It's not digital. I had them print it off, and they have a clipboard with it on there. Friday report. So this is an awesome thing. Every Friday, my assistants, my buyer agents, and I go into how to hire and train buyer agents, ISAs, everything. 5 things you did to move the business forward. Now, if they did the daily meeting form in the huddle each morning, then they just go back and look at those, and it's real clear. What are the 5 things you did to move the business forward? The week high. What was the high this week? What was the low? And oh, by the way, how did you wow a customer? Because it's about the customer experience. This is a land grab out there, and we have to have our staff and our great assistants help us create this amazing customer experience to set us apart. Team meetings should be once a week. Now, if you have one assistant, you're doing the huddles each day, that's fine, but there should be at least a team meeting if you have 2 assistants, a buyer's agent, if you're following the model. you're going to have that the same time each week, no more than 30 minutes. Attendance is mandatory. It's suggested to an independent contractor for success, and you make it valuable each time. So I give a team meeting format. I give you everything from how the schedule should go, what should be done, how the reports look, everything is there. Okay, thanks, Jasmine. The next slide. Again, everybody, put your questions in. Okay, so one of the things that agents say to me, and I've trained more agents and assistants than anyone in the country. Seriously, I've done it. I've been doing this for 25 years and been an agent for 40 years active. So here's the thing. It's hard to teach an assistant sometimes to treat the problems as their own. And so I teach, the baby with the dirty diaper. To be a great, amazing assistant, you absolutely have to make sure that your assistant is on board with the big picture and the opportunities for them. I always say that hiring an assistant, it's not a cul-de-sac job for an assistant. There is a base salary and there's opportunities to earn other money. And I know if you're not licensed, you don't get referral fees, but there's ways to pay bonuses. And so what I want to do is make sure that when I hire someone that they are on the team, they bought in. And so some of those things are, we can help you. We appreciate you calling us, letting us know. We're going to take care of that today, and we'll get back to you within, by 3 o'clock. And then you exceed their expectations, get back by noon, and say, you're such a great client. We want to jump on this right away. Here's what we found out. And whether it's your problem or not, or you guys didn't make the mistake, I teach the assistants, we apologize that happened. You just own it. You just own it, and you don't go, that other agent, they just never do anything right, blah, blah, blah. No. We apologize that happened. Here's what we can do. Here's what we can fix. So here's what will happen next. We will work on this immediately. That's what they want to hear. I teach them to how to listen so the client can vent, and you become the safe harbor. Again, I go over and over and over again. This is 6% of the value of their home. Whether you got the whole 6% or not, that's how you treat it. Okay, so one of the things that I want to talk about is the next slide. This is probably one of my favorite quotes. Champions are champions not because they do anything extraordinary, but because they do the ordinary things better than anyone else. Ordinary things. Answering the phone at the cash register. Ordinary things. Having a perfect listing file. There's no reason not to do that. Having a perfect closing file. No reason not to do that. Setting up the client so that they know that people in real estate, sometimes things can happen during a closing, and yet we're on top of it 100%. Knowing about the promise, which is basically letting people know that you're going to deliver a 10 experience, and all you're asking for is repeat business and referrals. So with that said, so are your basics in place? So whether you're doing, 10 transactions or 110 or 510 or 2010, I've had everybody who's doing any transactions take this course and say, gosh, it's so great to get back to the basics and really get those foundational pieces in. Thank you, Jasmine. Next slide, please. Okay. So one of the jobs of a great assistant is not only to answer the phone correctly, because it's the cash register, and I teach them the potential buyer, potential seller script so that when you're out of the office, those are handled. And, of course, you'd have to have an office line because you have a business. The other thing is absolutely making sure that you have these certain reports, so there's accountability. Yeah. Why do you want to report? Because it's accountability. It's your scorecard. It's being organized. It's a GPS for your system. And it builds a duplicatable business. So I give you a whole bunch. Now, we're bringing command in. There's an amazing pipeline report called Opportunities with little clapping hands. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It is absolutely an awesome tool. So if you look at the next one here, why does the team need whiteboards? Okay, team accountability, individual accountability, visual scoreboard. So some of you say, well, we just don't have any office space. Well, you must have a wall somewhere or a door or the back of your chair. You have to be looking at, how many listings were taken this month, how many buyers went under contract, how many sellers. And I give all pictures of all these different whiteboards that I have used successfully, And people and agents have said, oh my gosh, thank you so much. There's nothing like putting it up on the wall to see. Now, I know you're digital and you can use command. You got all these other CRMs or whatever you're using. Great, good. However, that visual, every single morning I'd walk into that whiteboard and I'd look to see what happened. And yes, your listing manager's putting up the new listings. And yes, if you have a TC, they're putting up what went under contract and who the agent was. And if you have a team, it's so powerful. I had one agent say to me, a rainmaker, well, I really don't want to make the other agents feel bad if they're not selling anything that month. What? Let's make them feel bad so they can get going, make some money. Come on, they got to make a living. How to be successful reports. Have a scheduled review. Dates and times must be attached to delivery, must be posted. Okay, so I give a lot of instruction on the assistant on how to do this. And so what I want you to really hear on this, which I think is so great, is that when you have a great assistant and they are in charge of the phone, they're in charge of the files, they're in charge of numbers, they're in charge of keeping everything up to date. They're also in charge of the 15th of the month because they're in charge of team meetings. And they're going to tell you where the gap is and if you're on track. Now, some of you are going, well, I really don't want my assistant telling me that. Okay, this is how you grow. This is called an independent contractor, and this is where you're accountable. And some of us like to go and hide, especially when we're not doing well, thinking, well, it's going to change, it's going to change. That accountability is so powerful. But more importantly, when you go out on a listing presentation and say, by the way, after they've signed the listing, the next person who'll be calling you will be my professionally trained assistant. She's been professionally trained, or he, and they will call, he or she will call you tomorrow at blank time between 9 and 12. And they will go over some of the particulars about the sign going in, blah, 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 blah. And by the way, here's his business card. And so you're giving the assistant's business card then, and it makes you much more professional as an agent. Your job description, by the way, in case you didn't know, agents and assistants on this call, write this down. Number one, they lead generate, $sign next to that. Number two, they lead follow-up, $sign next to that. Number three, they go on appointments. Number four, they write contracts, negotiate. And number five, which is really important, that they're role-playing. They're role-playing and getting price reductions. I mean, that fifth one can be a little broad there, but those are basically those money opportunities. Anything to do with money is absolutely, or skill building is absolutely critical. And so what does the assistant do? Everything else. Everything else. Communication is the key. I go through that. We go through an extensive job description and schedule. We go through a huge listing system and a pending system. We go through customer service. We also go through lead generation systems like expired and FSBOs, and we show you how those packages can be built. Give you a great example of a pre-list package that's powerful that can turn into an expired and FSBO package. This class is invaluable, but the bottom line is we create a policy and procedures manual. It's 450 pages long. It is a powerful, powerful book of your business. It's duplicatable and scalable. Whether you're doing 10, 20 deals, you're going to do 200 deals, you're going to do 2,000 deals. Teams have come into this class, and this is a duplicatable and scalable. So when you put that listing system in place, it's good for 2,000 plus transactions. It's good for 20 transactions a year. So wherever you are, this is absolutely a class. I have had questions before, and I want to answer this. Should my assistant be licensed? And I say, technically, I believe that I never hired an assistant. That I hired talent first, and I go through a hiring process, and then I get them licensed. It's really important that they get licensed in my particular, because if you're out of town, the assistant can go get a signature. She can explain something on a contract. Also, they can be taught to negotiate repairs, et cetera. It's so powerful. So that's really important. I've had people ask me, I'm an agent, I haven't hired an assistant. They go, great. You need to know systems that you need to put into place, and this is a great manual that when you hire your assistant, that you can go through that course with them, and then again, you might want to put them in the class, which would be a good idea. Here's the thing. Invest in your people. Education is so powerful. I was looking at my schedule, and there's probably right now 2 months, and I've gone up to 3 months when I look at collectively like family reunion, mega camp, coaches skills camp, recharge, all these different I go to Dave Ramsey stuff, all these different things I do. These weeks add up, so I do at least two months a year of traveling and going to these events, and so cumulative, not all at once. And so what I want you to hear is that training and education is so powerful. It keeps people excited and builds you a business. So with that said, highly recommend it. So let's go to the next slide. So thanks, Jasmine. So the next slide, okay, it starts July 9th, okay? And if you sign up now, you can save $100 off, and you put down Web 100. So thank you for being on the call. Put your questions in. I'll answer them if you have them. And what I want to share with you is that I guarantee those are going to be the best investment that you're going to make. It's $199 a month for 6 months. And the key thing that you're going to get back is you're going to have an assistant that understands the big picture. You're going to have an assistant that understands the phone is the cash register. He's going to have lots and lots of scripts, and obviously they're going to know how to handle people that call in and may be a little upset. They know how to ask for referrals and reviews. They'll go through some social media stuff. I'll go through absolutely the key things on lead generation and how to help you with that. And the key thing that I want to share with you is that I dug the well, and I know how an assistant changed my life immediately when I had my first assistant in the late 70s, early 80s. I even got thrown out of a Coldwell Banker office. Now, I did more business than all their agents added together, and yet I was a liability because they were so afraid that this person coming in unlicensed, they didn't know what might happen. So they said, you need to move on. Best thing I could have ever done. Best thing I could have ever done. Started my own company then, and the rest is history. So with that said, I want you to hear a couple of things, and that is make the investment in your assistant. Make the investment in your team. Make the investment for your clients. Make the investment for you. Assistants change your life as an agent. Great trained assistants change the lives of clients, which ends up building more repeat and referral business. Plus, this is a business. This is not a hobby. You're not doing deal to deal to deal. You're creating a business, which is a powerful, powerful business. So with that said, so did we get any more questions, Miss Jasmine? Thank you for your help today in the chat box.
So we don't have any more questions. If anyone does have any questions, please type them into your questions box located on your webinar taskbar. We'll give about a minute for this if anyone has any questions.
Hey, you guys, you got me on the phone. There must be something that I said that's going to cause, so you guys, there's plenty of stuff that I said that could cause probably a little bit of heartburn. How about calling every single day? I've got the script, and the assistant's not going to absolutely hear and talk to the clients every single time. However, the fact makes that you reach out, your team does. It's amazing how they behave, the client, how they feel respected, how they feel that you guys are on top of it and you're earning your worth. Okay. All right.
Great. So we do have just one question, and they're just asking, should we take this class even if we are 6 months out for hiring an assistant, or should we wait until we have our assistant?
You know, here's what I think about that. I'm going to suggest that you take this class. And what will help you prepare, because I do a whole chapter on hiring the right assistant, and it's really powerful for you to see how to lay things out, because the best thing you could do is when that assistant walks in and you've got some things organized and you've got a big, powerful book, because I give you 450 pages of information that are duplicatable and scalable, and checklists and systems, it would help you prepare to get your assistant started off on the right foot. So my suggestion is you absolutely take it, because you need the information to empower yourself, because I have a lot of agents that don't have an assistant. I'm so glad I took that, because now, even though I don't have a lot of these systems in place, I can say, here's a chapter on listings. Let's look through Pass the Baton. Let's look at this listing checklist. Let's see how we can make mine better. Hey, here's some letters. Hey, here's a free list package. You have all the examples without trying to reinvent the wheel. Now, when your new assistant comes on, you're going to spend that time and go through some of that stuff with them. And then I would say when you're ready, maybe a couple months later, you put them in the assistant class, because now they've got a leg up too. They're going to hear things a little differently than what you heard. Go, hey, we're not doing that. We should do that. Or, hey, I haven't got to that yet. Let's do that now. So it's really powerful. So it's kind of like bold. Once is not enough, because there's so much information. Most assistants say to me, gosh, this is the most valuable information. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I just can't get it all done right now. And I go, great. You do 2 things at a time, 2 things each month. What are the 2 things you're going to put into place this month? Because they have a full-time overtime job. So hope that answered your question. So take it, get involved so that you have the information to put your assistant on the right track for training, because then you're the guru of the information, and you've got a great training manual to work through. Okay. Anything else, Jasmine?
Yes, we do have a couple more that came in. So Jennifer asked, is this something that I should consider as a 6-year assistant? I'm the only one on this call. My team is not.
As a 6-year assistant, yes, absolutely, because what it does, it validates what you have in place. Hopefully, CANI, constant and never-ending improvement, will help you improve, but also it'll help you communicate with your team and putting up boundaries. So it's really, really great for a 6-year assistant. I've had assistants who reluctantly got into the class. Their rainmaker made them do it. They've been assistants for 10, 15 years. They email me and they say, oh, it's so great to hear this stuff. It's so great to hear that other people have this challenge too. So if you have a team, I'll help you control the team. If you have systems, I'll help you build those systems even tighter and more efficient and better. My whole goal on these calls is to have fun and build super, super efficient systems, putting up boundaries to respect the assistant's time. Also, if you get a lot of interruptions, I got a whole system for that. So highly recommend you come to the call. Absolutely. If these calls are live, they're not recorded. I mean, they are recorded, but they're live. Okay, good. What's the next question, please, Jasmine?
Yeah, so Lakeisha asked, would it be okay for the assistant to be virtual, or should they always be physically available?
Well, okay, so it depends on the assistant can be virtual, and I've had lots and lots of virtual assistants take this class. When you get up into a higher number of closed transactions, you're always going to need an assistant in the office that you could say, oh my gosh, I need a pre-list package, print this for me. Oh, by the way, can you help me out with this? And oh, how about that? Can you find that for me? Sometimes those virtuals cannot be that physically accessible when you need something physical. So the virtuals are great and to a point, and sometimes there's always, when you grow to the next assistant, I highly recommend you get one in the office. Okay. All right. Anything else?
Yeah, so someone else asked, what if the potential hire feels like the hiring process is too extensive, or you need to hire ASAP and CV seems to take too long?
Well, because I know career visioning well, I've done it 5 times, and every time I go, I learn something new. It's kind of like taking the perfect real estate assistant. You have to set the expectation up with the assistant, and you have to say, this is a process. Now, if an assistant is looking for us, is out there, you think you found someone super, 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 super good, I go through a whole process. They take a KPA, they take a disc, you do a phone interview, you have them come into the office, and instead of taking 3 weeks, if you really like that person, you know they're looking for other jobs, then you have them come back in the second day and do the story. You have them come back in the third day. So you tell them this can take 3 to 4 days, and I'm very interested in you. I'll need you to come back to the office every day, and we're going to discuss these things. Can you move that up a bit? You can, but when you hire ASAP or you hire the first one who comes in and it looks pretty pleasant, sounds pretty pleasant, you've hired a mistake. So you have to absolutely slow the process down, but can you speed it up? Yes. Do you need to tell them that this may be, we're going to talk about opportunities, this process may take a little bit longer, and this is how it goes, and if you really like them, you tell them about the process. However, I can get it narrowed down pretty quick off the KPA, which is awesome. You cannot look at anybody until they take the KPA, but you do the phone interview first. And the phone interview is critical. And I've got 5 powerful questions on that phone interview that I go over in the class. Okay, what's next, Jasmine?
Yes, so we have 2 more. Someone says, I need to find an assistant first. Can you help by sharing the perfect job description to hire the right one?
The perfect job description is in the Perfect Real Estate Assistant class. So I'll just give it to you off the top. If you want it, you have to email me. It's monica@monicareynolds.com. But I'm going to ask you to sign up for the class, of course. And so here's when you get the job description, I hate giving it out because my job description is my training checklist also. And you don't understand it until you see it all. It's a very powerful checklist. So I want you to know that if you're hiring your first assistant, then that checklist is also the training checklist. Now, if you want a listing manager and a TC, those are 2 entirely different checklists. So the EA checklist I'm going to give you is everything from A to Z. So with that said, of course, I'll give it to you. Second thing is get your assistant hired and then start the class July 9th. That would be perfect. Okay, what's the next question, Jasmine?
All right, the last question is, at what stage of success should we hire an assistant?
Okay, when you're doing 30 plus transactions consistently, then you need to be hiring an assistant to go to 50 to 60. In the MREA book, which was written after my book, Gary Keller absolutely said the same thing I did, which is for every 40 to 45 transactions, you need a full-time assistant. If you are doing 75 to 100 transactions, you need at least 2 assistants. 75, 1.5, 100, 2 full-time assistants. You can have one assistant do 100 transactions. However, you have no customer service. They're not calling the clients often. They're emailing or texting them, and there is no customer experience. It might be service, sort of, at a lower level. So if you want repeat and referral, it's 45 for every single transaction. And 45 is one assistant, another 45 is the second full-time assistant. So with that said, you always want to hire way before you need them. So if you did 30 transactions last year, and you're on track to do 40 this year or 45 or 50, you've got to hire an assistant right now. That's why this July launch on July 9th is the perfect time. And so if your assistant starts on July, perfect timing. They start in June, perfect timing. Work through a few of the things. I go through a comprehensive 30, 60, 90 day. I go through the job description and how to use that. But more importantly, the key thing is setting up the correct communication expectations with that assistant when they're hired. Too many assistants, like the majority, will say, well, I got hired for this and I ended up doing that. I wish I knew the job was about this. So setting up the correct expectations. Okay, Jasmine, anything else?
That's it. So thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thanks everyone for joining us again. Sign up. We're going to send you the link. We're going to send you the recording. Love to have you on the calls. They're live. I have a lot of fun, and I will help double your business with the right assistant. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Bye-bye.